Carbon. My organic ones do contain carbon, lots of carbon. So, contains carbon, carbon bonds are going to covalently bond with other things. So, do I share my electrons or donate them, or what's the deal?
Share.
Share, right? That word covalent means to share. So, I'm going to share with hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, like the list goes on and on for me over there. And I'm going to form these little groups, if I will, meaning like here's carbon with 3 hydrogens, and it's made a methyl group. And it can have like other things too. So we're going to talk about putting all this stuff together and making more complex molecules and things like that. So, as it says, I can form macro. What's macro sound like? Big molecules. I can form really large molecules. You might remember that a molecule is what? 2 or more atoms strung together. So 2 or more, so I can do carbon, hook to 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 carbon. This is pretty big, right? This is like macro, big, lots of carbons. Yeah, they all have hydrogens on here too. This thing's like gargantuan. So it's like a hydrocarbon tail, right? A lot of hydrogen, lots of carbon stuck on here. So very complex in its structure, lots of carbon, lots of hydrogen. They call that a macromolecule. Okay, let me give you some examples of what these things are. My organic compounds include carbohydrates. Sugar, right? I just saw something too the other day. I was talking about like how much sugar we eat per day. And then like any idea like how much sugar the average American eats per day?
2 cups.
Yeah, it's like 32 tablespoons per day. Think about taking a tablespoon, like at home, just like do 32, like scoops in your mouth and it's like a lot, isn't it? Yeah, take a look at a soda, like how many grams of sugar is in like a Coca-Cola? It's like a lot, yeah. It's like 23 grams or something like that, whatever it is that's in there. So yeah, you eat like 32 tablespoons of sugar in a day. It's a lot, isn't it?
It is made with real sugar too.
Yeah, so your carbs, so you have like complex carbs and simple carbs and things like that. We'll talk about some of the differences. Monosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides, things like that. What about lipids? Fat. Okay, so we have fat going on too, so we'll talk about fat. Proteins. Those are found in animal products and vegetables and it's like found all over the place, right? Yogurt, cheese, things like that. Nucleic acids, DNA, RNA, messenger RNA, ribosomal RNA. So that has to do with like your genetic code for you, your nucleic acids. And we'll talk about ATP. That's the power source for the body. That's the fuel of choice, right? Adenosine triphosphate. So I have 3 phosphate groups stuck on my little adenine guy over there. So we'll talk about all 5 of those and the importance of them. You guys ready to do that, maybe? You're down, huh? Good job. We'll do some carbs. You guys hungry? Yeah. Me too. That's what I'm thinking. So, yeah, think about carbs. Everybody thinks about like bread and pasta and things like that, right? So people have that low carbohydrate diet thing, all protein, no carbs, helps to like what, lose weight, a little fun or whatever. So yeah, carbs are those things, breads and pastas and rice and grains and things like that or whatever. And we have to figure out like, what they're made from. So let's take a look and see if we can figure it out. Mostly sugars, right? We said carbohydrates are your sugars that are out there. What's like probably your biggest sweetener that's used nowadays for like sodas and snacks and whatever?
Corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup. Is that like good for you? Yes, well, it's horrible, right? So that's like probably one of the worst things you need is like high fructose corn syrup out there. So nasty stuff. But yeah, so your carbs are mostly your sugars that are out there. And it says it's made of carbon and hydrogen and oxygen. So let me ask you, like, what's the 96% of the body made up of? Carbon and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen. So you can like sort of figure it out, right? So carbs, the 3 out of the 4 that we have, right? So that's why we're made of the big 4 because a lot of carbohydrates, right? A lot of proteins, things like that. So mainly used for fuel. So let me give you some examples. Carbohydrates. Glucose. That sounds pretty good. That's a sugar. Fructose. fructose corn syrup. Galactose. What's that one?
Milk.
Sugar found in milk. Maltose. Sucrose. Yeah, good. Okay, and then what else we have? Lactose. That's found in milk too, right? That one? Lactose? People like lactose intolerant, whatever. These are all sugars that are out there. Okay? Simple sugars, complex sugars, so they're all carbohydrates. They're all sugars. We use sugar to make fuel for the body. We like this one a lot, don't we? Glucose? Yeah, we like to use a lot of glucose. That's a good one for the body. So anyway, so we have 3 types of carbohydrates that are out there. We'll talk about monosaccharides, polysaccharides, and disaccharides. But these are the ones you might see actually in your foods too that are out there. High fructose corn syrup, they use a lot of sucrose, okay, things like that. All right, so here we go. So here's my 3. Just know them like really simple things like monosaccharides would be 1, disaccharide, 2, polysaccharide, many or a lot, right? The word poly means many or, all right, so I can have my very simple sugars, glucose. I can have my disaccharides, like, I don't know which one it is, like fructose, yeah. And my polysaccharides, I just want you to know glycogen. That's the main one I want you to know about. So glycogen is a polysaccharide. And it's made up of glucose. So I can take 2 glucose molecules and hook them together, or more, and form glycogen. It's a stored form of sugar for us. Do we have to have like a lot of sugar in the body stored up? You do. You have to have energy reserves. We store that sugar as glycogen because it's easier to store it that way. We store it in your muscle tissue and in your liver as well. So great storage, because at some point we need to convert glycogen to glucose to make more ATP so we can like work and train and things like that. So we'll talk more about that later too. So just know about my polysaccharide, glycogen, stored form of glucose. I probably have like a few examples of those too, maybe interesting. I have pictures. So yeah, here's my monos, as I said. Also messed up guy. It's going for sucrose and lactose, my disaccharides. But they show those two here, right? So glucose. So if you're diabetic, you have to check your blood glucose levels. Make sure you don't have too much sugar in your bloodstream, right? Fructose is found in fruits. Lactose, milk sugar. Same for the lactose, right? The milk sugar over there. Sucrose, we talked about table sugar, that's the white cane stuff. It's like that stuff good for you anyway, it's like pure sugar. Yeah, it causes inflammation and swelling inside your body, so it's really not so good for you to have. So sucrose, lactose, maltose, good. So we all good on those?
Yeah.
It's like basic stuff. Okay, so sugar for the body, you gotta have it, you just can't like not have it sort of thing. So we see way too much of it though, as our American diet. That's going on there. Okay, what else do we have for you? Yeah, they talk about doing this little conversion thing. And here we can have, here's that word hydrolysis, and here's dehydration. So we used those terms earlier, right? Yeah. Hydrolysis said we're going to break something apart using water. And then dehydration says we're going to combine something and then give off water over here. So it really goes both ways. This little chemical reaction, you go this way, and you can go this way and go back this way, either way. So really it's like not so important just to know, other than this, that I can take sucrose, okay, that's my disaccharide, made up of 2 sugars, and I can add water to it. I'm going to add water to this and break it apart. When I break it apart, I end up with glucose and fructose. You see how that works out? I can take sucrose, 1 big sugar, disaccharide, split it into 2, and then put the glucose molecule and the fructose. I can use that to go ahead and make energy in the human body, right? So I can convert that to ATP. So a little bit more of that later too. Okay, so we're good. This is real basic. Hey, onto lipids. Fat. You guys like fat? Does it taste good? Tastes way good, right? So they add fat to most of your stuff that's out there nowadays too, because it does make it taste better, right? More satisfying, whatever. We're eating things like, I don't know, just cake rolls, and little Debbie's, and Tokyo cream pies. You guys eat that stuff? Nope. Nutty bars. Yeah. Anything, right? So look at the ingredients. They always add fat because fat tastes good, and therefore they can sell more products if it tastes good. So we're going to add fat to all your foods out there. Includes things like oil. Lots of oil, right? Out in here. We have things like butter. something, the bacon's considered to be like a fat, really not considered to be meat, it's just called a fat. So those are my types of lipids that are out there.
Looks like ribs.
Looks like ribs, doesn't it?
Looks like pig ears.
Jerky, ribs.
Pig ears.
Right,
It's
no,
like
I
not
guess-
pig ears. No, dude. That's like.
I don't know, I guess you can do this. You can make up your own story.
That's like that's.
Don't get dehydrated, yeah.
Have you seen
for
pig ears
beef
before?
jerky.
Yeah, I have, but
That's what they're
thinking it's like zoomed in. I'm thinking it's zoomed out.
I don't know. Anyways. Alrighty, so we have some different types of fats found in the body. You probably know about fat because you've probably had blood work done, and they check for your cholesterol levels. That's like another big thing word today, right? So high cholesterol linked with heart disease, hypertension, stroke, you sort of name it, right? They go back to cholesterol. So they put you on, I don't know, Lipitor, and then your liver shuts down and you die.
No, did you get a liver
Heart attack, you die
transplant?
from liver failure, so it all works out. So our heart disease levels are down nowadays, right? Because people are dying from liver disease, so it's not too good. So we have those. Also they try, what, your triglycerides. That's the other one they check too, right? So your cholesterol should be like, what, less than 180, 200, in that range, whatever. They keep changing them around. So yeah, less than 180 to 200. Same thing, have like a level for your triglycerides. So they actually say that's like more important, triglycerides, than your cholesterol. Because there's like good cholesterol and there's bad cholesterol, right? It's out there. Yeah, so you have your LDLs. Are those good or bad? Yeah, those are bad, right? Those are bad cholesterol. And you have your HDLs. That's the good cholesterol, right? So the things there. Yeah. Yeah, actually those help to like break down the other stuff, the other ones that are like bad out there, and like help to transport them out of there. The reason I say it's bad is like it plaques the arteries and stuff that's in there, like clogs them up. This actually will go in and like break it apart, right, for you. How do you like, and it's your ratio too, right? That's like your total cholesterol. Because you can have like a cholesterol like 180, which might be pretty good. But then like of that, your ratio is like way off, meaning like you have way too much LDL and not so much HDL, and that's like just as bad as having high cholesterol too, sort of thing. So how can you like bump up your HDL?
Fiber. No.
Yeah, I think you can do like a little fiber maybe on there. But things like exercise is really good. That bumps it way up. And they say like red wine. That's another good one to actually increase your HDL.
And it sounds way better than exercise.
What's that?
That sounds way better than exercise.
It does. It really is. Drink and then you have
Or fiber,
cross
for
it
that
out
matter.
2 bottles of red wine. There you go. So yeah, just like ways around, right? You like justify it in your head or whatever. So yeah. How about this one? VLDL. You heard about that one? That's way worse than the LDL. Yeah. So, yeah, this stands for like high density lipoprotein. So high density, this is low density lipoprotein. This is very low density lipoproteins that are out there. So yeah, it has to do with like what type of those are found too in your bloodstream for your risk of heart disease. They can actually like take pictures of these different cholesterol molecules that are out there and crazy stuff, different shapes and things like that. So anyways, that's the whole thing on cholesterol and my triglycerides. Phospholipids, we're going to talk about those too, how those make the cell membrane for us. Those are good ones to know. So main part of my cell membrane. Steroids, we have, well, my cholesterol is part of my steroids, but we have adrenal corticotropic hormones, we have sex hormones, things like estrogen and testosterone. So those are good to have, right? So from the steroids, so again, estrogen will give you your female characteristics. What does testosterone do? Give you male characteristics, so you get like
Makes you
muscles,
hairier.
facial hair, things like that, or whatever, right? That's your sex hormone. What about
Makes
those
you
adrenal
stupid.
corticotropic hormones? Metabolism, right? So you've probably heard about like cortisol out there. So you get stressed out, your cortisol level goes up, and you gain weight, or whatever, okay, under stress, whatever. So it has to do with like metabolism,